bought a new coffee pot. The coffee pot we had brews a full pot of coffee in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
The coffee pot we have now, we threw that one away. Coffee pot we have now brews a full pot of coffee in 8 minutes.
Nice.
So my dad would set it and hit it for start at 7 o'clock, and then we get up at quarter after 7:30 to go out and do the horses, and it's still dripping, and I'm like, gotta wait till we come back to get coffee.
Mm-hmm. What happened to the old percolators? Do any of those exist anymore?
I'm sure you can get them, but times they are changing. They probably have better, turn that down a little bit, better results as far as
percolating.
Yeah.
Yes.
My grandmother had one. Tin can with a little glass on top.
Yeah, there you go.
That automatic drip will never take off.
No, Lord, no.
No, that'll never happen. Okay, you ready?
Yes, sir.
You remember how to do this?
Not yet.
All right, here we go.
And now for something special. The unit is self-contained with its own saddler, farrier, wheelwright, and so on. It's a rigorous training dished out who know all there is to know about horses, and it brings results.
We take you behind the scenes now to show just some of the interesting aspects of this training.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, the #1 podcast to create sounder horses from the ground up. Mike Stine is a registered journeyman farrier with an APF1 accreditation. On this week's show, Proper Balance of Movement by Tony Gonzalez. We're going to dive into Chapter 6, The Balance of a Horse. Also, talking terminology. We're going to talk about the side bone. Also, a case study that Mike brought in some pictures. So now's your chance to go over to YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe to us over there as well. And over to my far right side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you?
Doing all right. Well, welcome back. Welcome back to the fold. Where have you been? What have you been doing?
You
haven't been here.
Here.
I've missed you, Mike.
I know you have.
I've missed you so much.
I've been kind of brokenhearted. I was in Kentucky last weekend. I had the IPF mid-year board meeting, and on the Sunday we went to the Red Mile. Got to hang out in the blacksmith shop, and if you saw on my Facebook page, I did a lap in the pace car for the standard breds.
Oh, really? How fast did you get the pace car up? 200, 250 miles an hour?
You faster than that, you wouldn't believe. He said coming in on the straightaway towards the finish, we're at 37.5 miles an hour.
Woo, Mike!
And that's two wheels behind the horse at a pace at that speed. That's kind of cooking right along pretty good.
They make you wear one of those flame retardant racing uniforms and stuff just in case you rolled the car over going that fast?
Well, they soaked mine down,
kerosene.
With kerosene. But yeah, other than that.
That'll toughen you up.
Yeah.
Anything else been going on since you have not been on the show? We missed you last week, all our listeners. I actually met a bunch of listeners this past Friday. Brett Ingram had a little gathering, a little welcoming because he's at a new bar.
He didn't invite me.
He didn't, and I'm kind of upset about that.
What day was it?
Friday. You were working.
Friday?
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I
was working. I was at Greenock Farms working in the vet clinic. We're setting up for that to be a regular deal with me working in the vet clinic.
Well, that's good. That'll be a nice little avenue for you to jump out of all the time, or jump into and out of. I don't know what I'm saying there.
Well, the building's not that tall for me jumping. It needs a little more height, and it'll do more good, right?
Put your flame retardant suit on.
Yeah.
So Brett Ingram had he's at a new facility, new training facility, which is his. He leases it out, and he has all his riders and stuff that come over there. Right. And he's been there for a solid month now, maybe 2 months. I could be wrong on that. So he had a little soiree out there for all of his trainers and trainees and all that. And there was a pretty good group.
I wasn't allowed.
We talked about you, though. Believe me, I've had people come I had people come up to me and go, "Are you the guy with the Mike Stine and the podcast?" And I'm like, oh God, here we go. Yeah, and I'm not the way I am on the air. I'm not this way in public. I am recluse. I'm in the corner. I'm just sipping on my mixed drink and stuff, and just kind of relaxing, enjoying the atmosphere. And then you get someone and goes, "I know you," and you're like, oh God, here we go. No, but I had a little soiree there, and someone came up and said, don't you do the show with Mike Stine on the podcast? I said, yeah. and nothing but great accolades, and enjoyed our conversation, our dialogue back and forth, the information that you give out. So I had some good face-to-face feedback.
Right. Is this somebody I had paid off to say that or what?
I don't know if you worked for them before or didn't work for them or had worked for them in the past or currently working for them, but they had no idea who I was other than that's Amy's husband. And then they put 2 and 2 together and said, oh, that's Amy's husband that does the show with Mike Stine. And the show with Mike Stine is Equine Dynamic, and just round and round and round. So anyways, had a good time, a lot of good discussions on that. And one of the people that they had, that Brett had out there at this soiree, I've never heard of this before. And I guess my wife met this person when she went to the Camden training facility or the test competition or something down there with Diego this couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I had a few clients down there.
And she came across this woman. Her name's Rosalind. I don't know her last name. And she is what they consider a horse communicator. Now, you've seen the movie The Horse Whisperer with Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. I don't know. I'm not a Costner fan or a horse person fan at the same time. But
I whisper in horses' ears all the time.
yeah, don't kick me. So she has the ability to sit there and kind of communicate with the horses and telling you what the horse is thinking. Or if the horse isn't there, get a feeling, almost like a psychic, almost like a medium, but she doesn't consider herself that, in profession. She just has this ability to be able to communicate with horses and relay the message that the horse is giving her, whether physically there or not there, spiritually there. She kind of talks to the trainers or the riders and stuff and just kind of tells them what's going on. Type deal. So it was just interesting to see her going around the room and talking to all these people and saying, does your horse do this? And, oh, my God, yes, he does. Does your horse do this? Well, no, not really. Well, okay. And then she would, approach it, but she would give you all these stuff that normally you wouldn't know, someone shouldn't know, and she knew it for whatever reason. I don't know, call it clairvoyant, call it whatever, but it was just interesting. It's a very good communicational exercise between the group for everyone to get to know each other a little bit better.
You think she's got those troll things that comes and robs all your information?
Yeah, it steals all your information, and then they feed it to her in her ear. She's got a whole production crew behind her, like you would see on TV with the psychics and stuff, and she's got a little earpiece, and, ask her about her dog. Do you have a dog? Oh, my God, I do. But no, I mean, she wasn't to that extreme, but she would go around and just ask all these different questions, and she's like, I got a feeling for this, and I got a feeling for that. And, she was right most of the time. Some of the points, she might have been a little off, but I don't know how that works. I just thought it was very interesting. And if you want more information on her, you can go to clearlyroz.com. That's clearlyroz, ROZ.com. And you can check her out over there. That's who we had at the clinic. It was interesting to see all the stuff that she was doing. It was just real interesting the way she communicated with each rider and everything. So there you go.
Right.
It was fun. It was fun. Especially, I don't want to say it was like a party gimmick type deal. It was just fun to see the communication rather than, you ever been to a group of horse trainers or horse riders, owners sitting in a circle? It's not very fun. I mean, it is to them, but on the outside, like me, I'm just like I was telling you earlier, I just sit back in the corner with my mixed drink and just kind of take it all in. Oh, hi, how you doing? How you doing? And then someone comes up to me and goes, aren't you? And I'm like, oh, God.
So if I'm one of those groups, unless somebody's flat out knows me, are you a farrier? No, I'm not.
No.
I don't know anything about it. I've seen that in my life.
Meanwhile, Mike's standing there with chaps on. He's got his overalls on. He's got his shoulder straps on. He's got his shirt that says Mike Stine Farrier. No, you got the wrong guy. Wrong guy.
I borrowed that truck from my neighbor.
Right. I borrowed it for a friend.
Yeah.
All right, guys, stick around. We got a lot to talk about, a lot of catching up to do with Mike Stine since he's been gone for a week and a half now, and we'll get into that and dive into all this when we come back. Stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Oh, I got to read.
Are we doing that first?
It's the first thing on the list.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that first?
It doesn't matter to me. You can flip it whatever order you want to.
You tell me.
Ready? Shut up. Right.
Here we go. No, you're fine. Be quiet. All right, here we go. Go ahead. Get it out of your system now.
Tasted good the second time.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. As you heard, Mike Stine has got a brand new Facebook page up that's more business inclined, more for the podcast and everything that he's got going on. So make sure you search Equine Dynamics Mike Stine over on Facebook, and you can see all the new stuff that he's been posting over there. He continuously wants you to further your education as far as horses and horse creating sounder horses, and it's a lot of great articles that he posts over there. Great read. He doesn't bombard you with a bunch of stuff like family pictures and pictures of his dog or whatever he ate that day. He actually has very informative information. And with all the information over on our far hand side is Mike Stine. How are you?
Doing good, Travis. How are you?
Good. What'd you eat yesterday?
What, yesterday?
Oh, God.
Yesterday. I ate yesterday, yes.
Okay.
For sure. I ate something.
Now, Mike...
Tasted good second time around, too.
Mike Stine... one of his mentors that he had starting in the farrier business was a gentleman by the name of Tony Gonzalez. Just to give you a little recap, Tony Gonzalez was from, where was Mike? Give us a little background, short background as far as how you met Tony and why are we reading from this book that he has written?
Well, this is Tony was from Hawaii, came to the mainlands, ended up in Virginia, from there went to California. I met him after I was hunting for answers, after going through what I did with my own horses. I think I met him probably about 2002, or excuse me. Whoa. It's a date. The brown truck was only a couple years old. It's a 90, so it's about 92.
So what drew you to Tony and what made you guys become good friends after all this?
You know, the discussion was about horses that were not even, and just before that, we had a horse that, I don't know if it was intentional or what, but she'd been hit just above the stifle with it looked like probably a stray bullet. Something was in there.
Oh, wow.
And in the muscles just above the stifle, and there's a lot of scarring in there. And so we had flexion problems in that leg. So, you know, I was working on her and doing what we normally did for flexion problems, and did the same for both sides. Because if you do the same for one, you do the same for the other. And I think his answer was, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. But she kept twisting the one shoe off on the good side. And one day, her walking through a gate in front of me, and she had lost the shoe. And I was watching her, and she walked out real straight. And I put the shoe back on because, by God, we want the shoes to match, right?
Yeah.
And she did not track straight because the two legs were functioning mechanically different. And then we got some discussion over joint angulation, flexion, all this sort of deal, straight leg, not straight leg. We were trying to work to get flexion in the leg with the stifle damage.
And this is you and Tony working together.
But this is like for our first meet, time I ever ran across the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he really got into it and was trying to help me see and understand what the horse was trying to tell me. He said, she's screaming at you. She's just told you that treating both legs exactly the same
is not
a happy place for her.
So we're going to read from chapter 6, The Balance of a Horse. Now, this is from Tony's book. Now, this book was written how long ago? And I know we lost Tony in 2000.
We did.
And this is the proper balance mechanics, proper balance movement, sorry.
Right.
By Tony Gonzalez. So in this one right here, now this was written in what year was this book written? Didn't you say like late 80s, early 90s?
Late 80s.
Okay, so late 80s. So even still, some of the stuff that he has said now is somewhat still true, but
there's a lot of buts as we've discovered things. And one of his things was, you know, it's like one of the last talks, really serious talks we had. He said, if you ever think you owe me anything, go do your own thing. Go learn what I did not learn. I said, you know, take what you've gotten from me and build on it, because I certainly did not know it all. Every time I went out on a new odd case, the horse was telling me something. Learn what the horse is telling you. Learn to read the horse and put together the puzzle from there.
So this is a short little caption, and then we're going to dive into why he changes his train of thought based on this chapter right here. So in this chapter, reading, it says, the natural what is the natural horse's conformation? What it is, it's a conformation of its natural state. And it says also, I've seen physical changes in horses that goes through once it's been captured from the free environment of a pasture and then confined to a small enclosure, whether it be a pen or a stall. Changes in feed and other changes of horses. Next page. The change could detect in the horse's hoof structure as well. So what was his idea as far as the proper balance of a horse? What was his idea back then, and what made him change his view on this?
Well, basically, a lot of what he had done, and at some point he got curious and watched the wild horses. And wild horses get injured. Wild horses are not as perfect as our perfect little picture. And, you know, they got through stuff. And the deal with the wild horse, if he was off on one leg, that leg got weak. Okay. As he started moving, you built the strength back up. But also part of what was happening with wild horses is they did not collapse on one side like our domestic counterparts do.
And why is that?
Why? Because they grow more foot than a domestic horse. They grow a hardier foot than a domestic horse. And abrasion was what was trimming the feet. And they move a lot more distance. So if I've got a foot I'm protecting, it grows a little longer. Because a lot of times if a horse is injured a leg, they'll kind of fold up their shoulder to get off that leg. And if the feet are not changing with that side of the body drops and the barrel twist.
Do you think the free-range horses get more exercise and actually travel more ground, more mileage than, let's say, a dressage horse that's kept here on a property and, used for training and all that stuff?
Oh, yes.
Do you think so? For example, would a free-range horse do, let's say, 100 miles in a year as to where a horse that's here on our property would only do 20 miles a year? Even though that horse goes out 3 times a week.
It depends on where the horses live. It depends on the season change, depends on where they live. If you've got some of these horses that, like Ovanek's group and all that had tracked out in the Midwest, in the high desert country, some of those things are moving 15 to 25 miles a day. And there again, if you got like your Canadian wetland horses during the grass seasons, they're probably not moving much. And also you get some of the same thing in Australia in some of the rainforest horses where they're in lush grass, they're fat, and they're not moving much.
So the free-range horses...
Probably more than a domestic horse, but not as much as like your horses where they're scavenging for food over large distances.
So your wild horses would, by nature, fix their own balance based on their hoof erosion from
right.
running and stuff like that?
That's kind of where the idea started. Yes. And, as they started getting back onto that foot, they wore it out and evened out and all that. But the horse tended to be able to walk in a straight line, trot in a straight line. And a lot of the movement of wild horses is a slow, gradual pace. They're not out galloping or running. They do if they need to.
Not like in the movies, like when they fly the helicopter over. You don't get them running like that all the time.
Well, if you're flying the helicopter over, I'm sure they do. But the ones that are out there on their own, being left alone, they're kind of easing along. They want to be kind of on the lazy side if they can. I mean, Sally, he's kind of a lazy bum.
And Sally's your Mustang that you have.
He's my Mustang, yeah. He likes being a bum. He's good at being a bum.
Takes one to know one.
Right, I'm not going to argue that one because, my God, you'll win.
I'm kidding, Mike.
No, you're not. No, you're not. I know how you are.
Yeah.
You're just saying that because people are hearing it.
That's right. So what was his method of changing? I mean, what was the actual the results as far as he said, this is the way I thought, and now this is the way I thought?
Well, early on, he was recreating a lot of the body elevation to keep him straight with pad work. Later on in his career, it wasn't even so much about putting a foot longer. Because if you got if a horse hurts a hip, they'll drop it and they'll rotate a foot out. Okay, and then over that time, a lot of times we'll get medial heel compression and the lateral toe will run out, so your pressure will go onto that diagonal foot. And so you start normalizing the pressure. Okay, think about, just in the foot itself. And we're trying to get a table to stand square. We're pushing up on one corner. You got a table with a flexible top, right?
Yes, I do.
Sure. We'll go with that, right?
Yeah.
But you start jamming it. Medial heel goes in, medial heel goes up. Lateral toe goes out. These old styrofoam coffee cups are great for the demonstration.
And then you can stick a book of matches underneath the one leg that's too high off the ground.
Basically, yeah. But what happens is you don't really get that. The foot flexes. And because we're not changing that compression pattern on the bottom of the foot, we got to make the foot dead flat. We're not allowing it to spring back. And when you allow it to spring back to where it's centered up under the bone column, that leg will rotate back up under the bone column. If you got a horse that had a dropped hip, it's like I had a customer a little while back, a new customer. She always stands with that foot out, and that's always the leg that's weak. That's always the one. And I had picked up a foot and just walked around the horse, knocked a little foot off of her, did a rough trim with rasp, put it down and all that. And I said, well, take a look at her. I said, well, she always drops the hips, always aimed out. And she's looking at me and says, she's not standing with that foot out yet. But she had a distortion in the hoof capsule. She had a twist in the hoof capsule. And all I did was bump off just enough for the foot to spring back. I said, walk her out. Well, she's not rotating that leg around. What? You didn't do anything. I'm like, actually, I did. And, but there was a diagonal pressure problem within the hoof. And what I did was change some of the load back to the other diagonal within the hoof. And that hip started coming up. Now, on the other end, she'd been weak on that side for some time, so it's going to take some time to build up the muscles. Part of the problem with doing it with pad work, the better you get the pressures in the hoof to normalize. He hated people call it balance, because you can't take the foot off, go to the tire shop, spin it around, and see where you need to put weight, right?
Right.
So it's normalizing the pressure in the hoof, getting the load to square up on the hoof. You have some inherent problems with pressure in the hoof because horses moving out behind themselves. If they're too far out behind themselves, you start getting jamming, you start getting flares, you start getting all that. And the problem with chasing just a flare, you can take flares off and they come back, flare off, come back, but you're not necessarily taking care of the diagonal pressure in the foot, where if you can take care of the pressure, there's always a push and a pull. Take care of the pull, take care of the push. And it'll go down. And some feet you'll find are more push than pull. Some are more pull than push. But get that load to center up on the four-weight bearing pillows of the foot, and get the horse to stand happy under the bone column instead of cranking it out the side. Same thing with front feet. But the better you are with that, the less you need the pad work. The problem with pad work is if you over pad them, you lock them in position, you're forcing them to use muscles that they can't get away from. And you can also create some compression problems. But when you get into really understanding the torquing and movement and how much that foot moves around and can settle some of that down, that's like lacing cracks. Years ago, lace cracks did this to cracks, did that to cracks, all this kind of stuff. Normalize the pressure in the hoof. Most of the cracks are going to take care of themselves without doing anything else.
So this is all the stuff that you and Tony have not decided, but come across after this book. After this book, you were like, well, this is the way we have to think now,
right?
Because of all this stuff that we're now finding out, that we're continuously learning and educating ourselves and watching, instead of one size fits all type of theory or that you would attach to that foot.
And one enlightenment with that on my end of it was working with Dick Mansman when I was working at his clinic, and this was early 2000s. And he says, you can't tell me that leg's shorter, or how can you prove that leg is actually shorter? Because when you measure joint to joint to joint, a lot of times if they're shorter in a cannonbone on one side, they'll make up for it somewhere else. I said, well, and that's true. They do. And so let's pull out a tape measure and let's measure the radius. Let's measure the scapula and all that kind of stuff. Well, this leg's a lot shorter, but scapula is the same length. Let's look at the joint angles of the shoulder. Let's look at the joint angle, the elbow joint angle. And if that's collapsed over from top to bottom, that leg's shorter. If we get that shoulder to open up and be used, all of a sudden that leg lengthens out. So that's one thing you got to look at. I'm not saying there's not some horses out there with truly shorter legs, because I've worked on a few, but most of them will even out enough without necessarily using any pad work.
It's amazing, going back to the one story you were talking about where the horse was standing there and the one leg was twisted out.
Right.
And you went over there and bumped it with a rasp or whatever and shaved it, whatever you did to it.
Right.
And then the horse walked out and it was fine. The question, what always amazes me is, how come this was not seen or done before you got there? Who was doing the horse's feet prior to this, or let this happen, or did not understand why this horse's foot is, oh, that's just the way the horse stands. He's always going to stand that way. How come this is not happening? Is it
education?
I was just going to say, is it because people are not furthering their education as far as, okay, back to the book again, this one idea worked very well, but now we're seeing other changes that need to happen?
Let's go back to this. Okay. Because of what I went through, I tried every year to educate myself. Because of what I'm doing now, I have to prove that I'm educating myself a certain amount every year through the IPF to keep my standards where they are.
Right.
And I go way over and above what they ask. And you know that.
I know that. Do they know that?
I do know that.
No, do they know that?
The IPF people, they
Yes.
know it. Believe me, they keep track of me pretty good. But
in more ways than one.
yes. But you can go to shooting school. You can go down and get your uncle to show you how to shoot nail a shoe on. And you can have a whole career with that much training and that much knowledge. And as far as these further ed clinics, you see the same handful of people every year. And the Healthcare Summit, I was at the Healthcare Summit. I spoke a couple of years ago, I did a couple of presentations at the Healthcare Summit. As far as people out of my neighborhood being at the Healthcare Summit, we had people from around the world.
Not to interrupt you, but the sad part, when you said we see the same faces every year, that's the sad part.
Right.
Because technically you want to see new faces coming in and new blood coming in and new ideas coming in.
Right.
And that's not happening.
There's a lot of new ideas, and there's a lot of stuff done in different parts of the world that we get exposed to.
And I don't want to say it's not happening. It's not happening at the rate that you think should happen as far as how many farriers go into this field and how many farriers, we were talking to Jared a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
How many farriers.
Jared was at the Healthcare Summit.
And how many farriers fall off after a couple years.
Right. And the reason I know Jared is from doing further ed.
So there you go.
And yes, but there's so many opportunities out there, and repeatedly you see the same handful. And I don't know what to do about that.
Yeah.
Owners have to demand it. Owners have to look for better.
You have to get the message out there.
The owners need to learn better, because there's a lot of stuff, and that's part of the reason I'm doing this, because people need to be thinking and understanding some of what's going on. And there's too many horses lost to, well, that's just the way it was always been done, and that's just what happens. He's just no good, and we ought to be retiring horses because of unsoundness, or excuse me, that went way off track because of old age, not unsoundness.
Correct.
And, when I came in and started working on your wife's mare, there are some issues with her in her neck. As far as where she was when I first came in, what happened? What happened with her level of being able to work and comfort and all that?
She was doing good. She was good. But
Right.
she could only do as much as she would comfortably allow to be done.
And sometimes you don't need to shove her over that edge. And sometimes you have to make decisions. So that's what was being done. But she's as sound as she was a year or two ago.
Oh, yeah. She definitely is.
And not to point fingers, but y'all were in a downhill slide before I got here.
And I know, and unfortunately, I have no say so or call on those. And I know the farrier that was out here, and he between his grading service, because he would grade like concrete and grade like areas and stuff like that. He had a grading company, and he did horseshoes on the side.
Yeah, and if you're going to hire a farrier, you need to hire someone that is very, very serious about being a farrier.
And he's not doing it for, like you say, beer money.
You wouldn't go to. You want your teeth worked on? I got some dental tools. Come out, hang out in the back of my garage. Would you?
I got a chair in the back of my garage. Just lean on back. I got a flashlight.
Lean on back. I got some pliers and chisels. We can get that sucker out of there.
Watch the game while we're doing it.
That's right.
All right, guys, stick around. When we come back, we're going to talk terminology. This week, we're going to talk about the side bone. I know we talked a little bit about it before, but we're going to dive a little bit more into detail on that. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Dissect it up to squeeze it together.
Squish it.
Squishy. Oh, I never changed cameras, so let's change it on this one. Ready?
Right.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Don't forget, you can follow us on YouTube for every podcast we do. We have a matching video. You can see Mike reaching over. What were you going to grab over there? Are you grabbing your water?
No.
Oh, what are you grabbing? The horse's chicken bone over there? That
chicken leg.
The chicken leg? You're going to bring that in the camera frame? And now would be a great time for you to go over to YouTube and make sure you like and subscribe to Mike Stine over there. Just search Equine Dynamics Mike Stine over on YouTube. And we have a lot of visuals that we have here in the studio, and you can see them in real time as we're talking about it here on the air. Now I'm going to switch to camera 3, and let me make sure this camera's on straight.
I'll keep moving it while you're trying to straighten it. How's that sound?
That sounds good. And if you have any questions for Mike Stine, make sure you go over to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says contacts. Fill out that little form and make sure you put a return address on there as well, and we'll send you out a prize pack. We sent about a bunch of prize packs out last week, so hopefully those listeners will be getting them here shortly. Now, over to my far hand side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis.
So what do you got there on your plate?
Midday snack.
Yeah, it looks like it.
This is my trusty horse leg, and we're talking about side bone. And you see the calf bone itself. Your lateral cartilage is attached back in this area, and if they get too beat up due to whatever, and I think this horse at one time was ridden on asphalt a lot, that we're going to look at in a minute. You damage the lateral cartilage, it starts calcifying in, and you got a little bit of calcification in this point.
So tell me what
it builds up bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's side bone.
Okay, I was going to say, tell us what the side bone actually is. So that's you were describing it there. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Sure,
so
you did.
The term side bone describes the condition of calcium deposits that are laid out within the cartilage system. The process is called mineralization. It comes from a bone-like process known as ossification. Once ossification has occurred, the lateral cartilage becomes less flexible, and this can cause pain.
Yes, it can. And you can start losing joint flexion and cause a few problems. And this kind of leads into the next deal where the horse came in the vet clinic.
So is there any kind of surgery? Is there any kind of movement? Is there any kind of things you can do to relieve this pain or to eliminate getting side bone?
Well, what we can do is deal with some mechanics, build some mechanics into the shoe so that we're not forcing the joint as much, deal with our medial lateral balance, pay attention to what's going on there, and sometimes a little bit of rubber in there, shock absorber may help. But you may have to do something over and beyond what you can do with the bare foot to relieve the situation a bit.
Now, a long time ago, when I was a child, I fell off my bicycle. And my foot, the side of my foot got pinched between the pedal and the frame of the bike. And it pinched it, kind of popped it sideways. And I had this big lump on the right side of my foot.
So you had side bone?
I had, well, the doctor at the time didn't call it side bone. He called it a calcium deposit.
Right.
Because I had this bump on the side of my foot.
And he said you're a clumsy kid.
He called me a lot of things, too. Yeah. But I had to walk on crutches so I could take the pressure off that foot so the calcium could dissolve and then go back. Now, when you get a side bone, can a horse do that same effect as well? Keep it off that foot? I don't want to say, a horse is going to walk around with a sling on or anything like that, but can that side bone dissolve and go away?
The cases that I've been involved in is pretty well advanced, and I don't know what to say as far as people having any great luck with that. Where I've come in on them is where it is pretty well advanced and it's causing interference. So, I mean, I guess you could stall them. I don't know that your horse could walk on crutches real easy.
No, but I didn't know if there was something else, like you were talking about putting a pad underneath the foot to relieve some of the tension or stress on that foot.
Right.
Would that help the side bone? And let me add to that question. How long would it take once side bone starts to where it gets to a bad point? Is it like a week? Is it months? Is it over?
It's over a long time.
Okay, so it's not like overnight.
It's vary from case to case. Part of the problem is we probably don't even know about it until it's well developed, unless somebody is x-raying feet on a regular basis, which should be done a lot more than it is.
Are you saying a lot more than what's recommended or a lot more than the people are doing now? For example, we get ours done.
Most people do not get their horse's feet x-rayed.
Okay, so
at all.
okay, yeah,
until there's a problem. and then you find out.
So we get ours x-rayed at least once, if not twice a year.
Right.
So that's good.
Yeah, that's very good.
Okay.
That's very good.
Just checking.
And y'all go, go to, I don't think you need to do any more than that. But if there's something going on, we can monitor it. And if something does change, we've got a baseline so we know what's going on. That's like with anything, and I have people come up with x-rays. My horse is foundered. Can you fix it? I've got x-rays from 5 years ago. That tells me where the horse was 5 years ago.
Right, not now.
Doesn't tell me where it is now.
All right, guys, stick around. When we come back, we actually have a case study that Mike was messing around with and got involved with. It was a horse with laminitis and SIDEBONE as well. Mike fixed the horse. They returned the horse back to the owner. The horse neglected to take care of the horse, and then here's the situation.
Well, I don't know. There was some care. I don't know what the skill level of the care was.
All right, and we'll show you those pictures as well. So now's a great chance for you to go over to YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe over there, and you can see these x-rays and stuff in real time as we're talking about them here. Stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Whoop. Doing all right?
I'm doing good. Just getting my head to pop around. See if my neck's cracked, see if my head pops off. Wouldn't bother me. It's not something I really use.
Yeah. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. If you'd like Mike Stine to perform a clinic out at your location, the way you get a hold of him is go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says clinics, and myself and Mike can do this podcast right at your location as well, whatever event you got going on. Just fill that out, and we will pencil you in and schedule you for a visitation as well. And over to my far inside is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I feel when I was at that party, I don't want to say I felt out of place. Now, we live here on this huge property here. I don't go out much. So when I get into...
You shouldn't be out much.
There's a reason why I'm not out that much. When I was with this group of people, 20-some-odd people, who all shared the common interest of horses and anything that has to do with horses, and the only common thread that I have is this podcast, which I'm like going, I don't want to say anything, so I just kind of hang back and stuff. I just felt like uncomfortable. And
did Amy take you and sit you in the corner and say, you sit here and be quiet, don't talk to anyone?
She'd walk by now and then and hand me a cookie. You're doing good. You're doing good.
Yeah, there you go.
So it's just, horse people are different, pardon the pun, a breed of people when they all get together and they do all that stuff.
That's something you can call them, yeah.
So I just thought it was interesting. One, to get out of the house in a large group of people, even with COVID and stuff, people weren't getting out. We are now just starting to slowly get out and adventure. At least I am out of the house. Now, we're going to talk about a case study that Mike actually was involved with, got out of the house, saw these x-rays. And so I'm going to switch to camera 6 and we can see this in real time as we're talking about it here on the show. So make sure that we can see this. All right. So Mike, tell us what we got going on here. I'm going to call this horse Twinkle Toes.
Twinkle Toes.
All right.
Well, Twinkle Toes was a horse that probably 2 years ago came in the vet clinic.
And the reason why I'm calling this horse Twinkle Toes, and this is just from the knowledge and everything I've learned here on the show.
Right. Tell us what's going on here.
I'm looking at this coffin bone. Mm-hmm. The hoof is flat, dead flat on the surface. Nice horizontal x-ray of this foot. The coffin bone literally looks like it's standing on its tippy toes. The coffin bone inside this hoof is pointing straight down into the ground, almost at a 90-degree angle. Hence the term Twinkle Toes. How'd I do?
You diagnosed the situation perfectly.
Yes. So stick with us, kids. We'll teach you the world. So here we go. So we're looking at this.
At Twinkle Toes. If you notice, Twinkle Toes has a relatively flat shoe. Might have a little bit of something on breakover, but very little. And has a frog support pad underneath.
It's right here.
Right.
And don't forget, you can see this video over on YouTube as well.
And anyway, Twinkle Toes, we had worked on probably a couple of years ago in the vet clinic, probably about 5 rounds. Twinkle Toes had laminitic, had a lot of white line at that time. And so we removed a lot of foot, got things realigned, worked with some mechanics, got some sole depth under Twinkle Toes.
All right. And so these are current X-rays of Twinkle Toes.
These are current X-rays of Twinkle Toes. And if you look, there's not a lot of real estate between Twinkle Toes' coffin bone and if he was barefoot on the ground and the ground.
That little tip, it's almost like it's a finger pointing straight into the earth.
Right.
I mean, that's horrible. Is that one of the worst cases you've seen?
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all.
All right. So this is the rear portion.
This is the rear portion, and this is part of the reason we brought up side bone. There's some big, high side bone. And because of that rotation and the angle of the coffin bone, it makes it stick up even higher. Now, when it starts getting up above the joint like that, you can start losing, flexion of the joints.
Now, this is a rear X-ray. This is an X-ray of the right foot, the rear. Is this the rear or the front? Doesn't matter, I guess.
Well, the beam shot from the front, the plate's in the back.
It looks like a horn, like a huge double horn off to the side.
Right. And there's a little bit of calcification probably starting on that other side also.
Right here. I see, yeah.
So
now this wasn't this side bone was not there when you initially dealt with the horse.
This horse had some side bone a couple of years ago.
Okay.
This did not develop overnight. But, the in-between, when this horse left the clinic, we had a lot of sole depth under this foot, and we had the alignment in more of a normal position. What was done between this couple of years, how the horse was maintained, how it was ridden, I can't tell you. But the idea is to not have it back in the clinic.
So this is the left side.
This is the left side. This is the better side as far as the alignment and as far as the sole depth. If you look at the tip of that coffin bone where you can see it between the nails, there is some remodeling there.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of a scoop on the front, but not as bad of an angle of the coffin bone going into the ground.
Right, and you can see some lines and up there at the coronary band, front towards the front of the hoofs. Up.
Okay, got it. Right here.
Right in there.
Sorry.
You see the little dark spot in the line there? It looks like you had a little bit of separation. Something is eased out at that point.
Yeah.
And some of that is compression, and it would be nice if we had some good markers on there so you could measure from your extensor process to the true coronary band and get some accurate numbers on that because, okay, or have we got a little sinking involved? But there is a little remodeling on the tip of that coffin bone, so it's seen damage before. And I think in the original insult, when we worked on the horse, that was probably the worst foot at that time.
Now, can you ever get this coffin bone to flex back to where it should be at a good angle, or is Twinkle Toes always going to be at this angle, and you just have to adapt your hoof care for this to make the horse comfortable?
Well, we have to adapt the hoof care. We want that joint alignment better. Can we get it better? Yes. Can we get it better with a flat shoe and get to that angle and not have the stress on the flexor tendon and continue torquing away at the lamina? Probably not. So I've got a lot of mechanics built into what I've got on there. He's not exactly where I want him yet. Part of the problem was working materials, time, and the size of the foot, as far as what I had in the truck and what they were willing to go as far as building. Because I could spend half a day in the shop and build something or on the back of the truck, fabricating stuff and put him right where I wanted to. But they also, what the charge is going to be is going to reflect that.
I can see the angle of this coffin bone, and just like this segment here, I don't know what this is called, this segment right
Short
here.
pastern.
And then this is not, I can tell that they're like kind of out of whack because of this.
Right.
So this would create more movement further up the horse.
This would create some problems, yeah. But there is some rotation. This is due to some ongoing laminate issues over time. This is what's probably going to take this guy down. Now here on the left foot, we also have side bone, but look down the side bone right there.
It looks like it's broken off or something.
It does, doesn't it?
So will that absorb into the horse if it breaks off, or is that just going to fester and cause problems?
Well, it could kind of mend back together. It could. Sometimes if you have little tiny chips like perimeter rim chips on a coffin bone, you'll get an abscess and they will demineralize and disappear. That large of a piece.
That's big. That's like a Jolly Rancher size.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if the Jolly Rancher is going to disappear. It will probably calcify in, and when we come back here in a year or two and see the horse again, because we're in the same situation again, you're probably going to have a bigger lump at that point.
If this side bone broke off, do you think it would ever fuse to this portion of the? Could it drift that way and fuse to that? I don't know what this bone is here.
That's okay. You're looking into
I'll go back
the
to
back of the hoof.
Yeah.
So you're looking.
Switch cameras. Back to the chicken leg.
Back to the chicken leg.
Okay, so there we go.
So you're looking here. So there's your short pastern, your navicular bone, and your coffin bone from the back of the hoof.
Mm-hmm.
Could it fuse in? If it got pushed in the right position and got close enough to it, probably, maybe so. I don't know. Normally, probably not. If it does, is it going to cause problems? Most likely. Could we end up with a lot more calcification around there? Could it get calcification start involving some of the collateral ligaments? Possibly.
And surgery is not possible at all with this?
In this situation, I don't think so. And there again, it's also the owner's situation and everything else. Because as far as the shoe job that's on there, they were making some attempts to support the coffin bone. But there's not a lot of mechanics in there to deal with mechanical leverage and pressure. So the horse probably should have been in something with a lot more mechanics built into it.
And there's nothing you can inject into the horse to relieve the stress, like a steroid or anything like that, to relieve any kind of angst that the horse may have?
At this point, any kind of injections into the hoof, and nothing's been brought up there. And so I don't think we're looking in that direction if we could do anything there. And if you look at that lamini stretched way out, there's a lot of laminar damage in there. That's not going to go away. We can get the mechanics better and get stress off the lamini, and when it starts stressing the lamini again, it will start getting more rotation and or sinking and more remodeling and more damage to the coffin bone. So eventually we'll end up with the horse not being a horse anymore.
I was just going to say, is this untreatable and the horse is just going to live out its final days shorter than normal?
Most likely, I hate to say. Now, I have worked on horses like this that I've come in and worked on long term that have lived to a very old age. We just lost one at, I think it was 37 years old. I came in as a well after the fact on, and I got one right now that's like a large to medium pony that they've got papers on. 39 years old. And I've been working on him for 20 some odd years, probably 25 years.
Gosh, you're dating us, Mike.
Yeah.
Don't date yourself.
He's still ornery and dragging people around and bossing people around and all that. Now, with things not being done for him, and we've had to change directions several times with this guy, would he be around? Probably not. But there again, that goes back into farrier education. And you know, a lot of this goes back to Doc Red and podiatry program and all that. The reason that our 39-year-old is still out there.
Right. All right, guys, stick around when we come back. One more little segment, and then we'll let you get back to enjoying your ponies. Stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. What did we learn?
Don't buy a horse.
You keep saying that, but yet. Everyone buys horses. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. If you have a question for Mike Stine at any time, go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says contact us. Fill out that little form. Make sure you put a return address on there, and we'll send you out some a prize pack, Equine Dynamics prize pack, and we'll send it out to you right away. And if you'd like Mike Stine or the Equine Dynamics podcast to perform out at your location or a clinic at your location, fill out clinics at the top of that page as well. We'll pencil you in, come out and meet and greet you, and do all that stuff. And over to my far hand side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing all right. So what did we learn today? The Proper Balance of Movement, the book by Tony Gonzalez, The Proper Balance of a Horse, what Tony's views were back when he wrote this book, and how has that changed currently today?
Well, it was evolving with Tony, and Tony was working towards getting away from the pad work before his health failed. And the more fine-tuned we can get with the horse, the better reaction we can get with using less materials. And but it's learning to read the signs, learning to know what's going on. A lot of farrier education in multiple directions. The podiatry training I've done plays into this. The body work that I did with Ray Morris and Chris King and all along the line. Those lines play into this. So discussions with like Dr. Mansman in particular, when we got into this, we had a lot of discussion there, and going back and forth with Tony and Clyde and those guys. And it was always evolving, always changing, always hopefully getting better.
And it's kind of like, you have a doctor or a dentist, like you brought up a dentist earlier. Once they get out of school, they don't stop their education because there's always something new and changing on the market, whether it be a new product, a new way to look at things, what they found out, case studies and medicines and tests and results. And that's what you need to make yourself aware of.
Yes.
And also, we were talking terminology, the side bone. The side bone term describes the condition of a calcium deposits that are laid out within the lateral cartilage, and the process is called mineralization. So how do they get it? How can you prevent it? And what do you do once you get it?
Well, this is something that's going to be more prevalent with the drafty breeds. X-rays on a regular basis, once a year, would get us in a position where we know what's going on better. Work with an educated farrier with some talent and skills that can do something to help with, leverage, with impact, with mechanics of the foot to reduce concussion to the lateral cartilages and compression to the lateral cartilages and not beat them up so bad.
I have a question for you, kind of not off topic, but on topic as well. You say get your x-rays once a year. They say, back to the dentist, you need to get your teeth cleaned at least twice a year, if not once a year.
Right.
And you know why they clean your teeth is because they're looking for cavities. They're looking for any kind of brokenness or anything like that. How much does a horse x-ray all the way around generally cost? Like, if I had no idea what an x-ray would cost, you're thinking x-rays, you're thinking doctor, there's a whole team, there's a whole ambulance that comes out and the horse, how much generally, like low range and high range, does it cost just to have your horse examined, whether it needs it or not, just to have the feet x-rayed?
That's one of those things that's going to vary a lot depending on your vet, area of the country, and everything else. I'm not sure. If they bring the chopper out, it's going to cost a lot.
That's $15,000 just to fire that thing up.
I just got to have landing pad cleared and the whole bit.
But if you call like your local vet and ask them if they do x-rays, I mean, it's nothing for them to say, hey, how much do you charge for?
No, it's going to be up to that vet and how they run their business. And
so get it done. I mean, find out how much it is.
But you know about having like your teeth cleaned regular. I had somebody the other day wanted to book regular with me. They wanted a horse trimmed in the fall and in the spring.
That's it.
Twice a year, they want it done regular.
Oh.
And they can't understand why their feet are always a mess on this old horse.
Right. Doesn't make any sense. Did you explain this to that person?
Well, they were doing it regular according to them.
Okay. Maybe they're not putting as much stress on the horse as you would imagine. Maybe not. Maybe it's walking 15 miles a day. And also, the case study of Twinkle Toes. And let me switch back to camera. Go back to camera 3. And let's look at Twinkle Toes again. So again, this is Twinkle Toes, where his coffin bone is pointing directly, almost at a 90-degree angle, straight to the ground.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where, the horse in the vet clinic, we always try to get their farrier to come in and work with us. It would be some good education to get them in the loop of what's going on. And the follow-up needs to be there. And if they decide to go off in a direction and say, well, Billy Bob's a nice guy.
I love Billy Bob.
Billy Bob's all right. But we can get somebody to come in and do it real cheap and real quick, and it's good because it's real cheap and real quick. You may end up coming back to the vet clinic with a situation like this.
And you're not going to like Billy Bob that much, even though he's a nice guy and he makes good barbecue.
That was kind of rude picking on Billy Bob. Billy Bob's my best friend.
He's got good barbecue, too.
He does.
All right, guys, on that note, make sure you follow. Oh, let me switch cameras here. I got everything going here and crazy. Make sure you follow Mike Stine over on his new Facebook page. It is the Equine Dynamics Mike Stine. He posted a bunch of different articles up there. Like I said, he doesn't bombard you with Billy Bob's barbecue sandwich that he just bought from him. He actually posts some stuff up there that's actually educational. If you'd like to further your knowledge as far as horses, make sure you like and subscribe to Mike Stine over there on Facebook. That's Equine Dynamics. Make sure you also follow him over on YouTube as well. For every podcast we do, we can see me here in the studio waving to Mike, Mike waving to me. He's got his chicken leg up here. He's going to put some Billy Bob's barbecue sauce on it, and we're going to have a good old time. So make sure you follow him over there as well. On behalf of Mike Stine over there,
have a good day. Enjoy your horses.
My name is Travis Sain. See you next week. He got the brunt of it, didn't he?
He did.
11:04.